In this tutorial, I'll walk you through every step I use to create this ramen bowl. Let's go! We'll start off by activating an add-on. So go into Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, search for Extra, and activate Add Curve Extra Objects. And you might as well also activate Add Mesh Extra Objects. We'll start by adding the bowl, so press Shift A and add a UV sphere. Go into Front View, go into Edit Mode, toggle X-ray with pressing Z for your shading menu. Select the top half, press X and V. Leave Edit Mode, press G and Z and move it up. And then we toggle X-ray, add a modifier, add a solidify modifier. Change the thickness to 0.15 and then we'll apply the modifier. Now press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision modifier, increase the render to 3. We'll go into edit mode by hitting tab, go into front view and then face select the bottom faces, go into your select and select more and then Shift R to increase it once again. And we'll press X and F to delete the faces. Now go into Edge Select by pressing 2. Select the outer loop. And then go into Front View and then press E and Z and extrude it down. And then press F to fill and then B to bevel. And with your scroll wheel increase the loops. And then press Ctrl R to add another loop cut to move it up a tiny bit there. And then in the top ring, also add a loop cut. Leave edit mode, click right click, shade smooth. Go back into edit mode, activate face select. Select the middle faces in the inside. Go to select and then select more. Toggle X-ray. And then press Shift R until you reach around 5-6 loops. You can make this as deep as you want. Press Shift D and then right click to confirm. Press P and then separate by selection. Leave edit mode, toggle X-ray. Select your duplicated item. Press tab to go into edit mode. Toggle X-ray and then select the outer loop. And then press F to fill, Ctrl B to bevel. And then with face select, select the top face and then press I to inset and create a few loops and then toggle X-ray. Now we'll create the eggs. So press Shift A, add a cube, move it to the side a bit, press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision modifier, increase the renders to 3, go into edit mode and then S and Z and scale it down on the Z axis. Leave edit mode and then press Shift D and duplicate it. Go back into edit mode and then we'll scale it up in the Y axis. Or we'll first move it down, so leave edit mode, press D and Z, move it down a tiny bit, go into edit mode and scale it up on the X and the Y axis. And then we'll move it a bit there. And then we'll add a loop cut. Move it up and then we can move it down like that. And there's our egg. So you can just right click, shade smooth, right click, shade smooth. Select the egg, go into edit mode, press A to select all. Scale it down, go into top view, leave edit mode, and then we'll place it in our bowl. So we'll move it up and the egg is still a tiny bit too big, so scale it down a tiny bit more. And then we'll rotate it with RZ90 and then RX. And we'll rotate it like that. And we'll go into top view and then we'll place it there in our bowl and then G and Z and move it down. And there it looks pretty good. Then press Alt D and create a link to duplicate. And then with Shift Z, move it around only on the X and the Y axis. And then you can just move it a bit to the side, maybe rotate it a tiny bit. It can be a bit down and just place it where you want it to be. From front view, I'm gonna have a look. I'm gonna select them and then move them a bit to the left. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, then we'll go and add the onions. So we'll add a curve and we'll add a path. And then we'll go into edit mode, scale it down, leave edit mode, move it up. And then in our curve settings on the geometry, we'll increase the depth. And I think 0.1 is a good point to start at. Go into edit mode, scale it down a tiny bit. This might be a bit too thick, but we'll see. Leave edit mode, go to your modifiers tab, add a solidify modifier, and then press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision. And then we'll increase our solidify to 0.4. Scale it down a tiny bit more in edit mode. If it's a bit smaller, I think we can make it a tiny bit. Decrease the depth a tiny bit. 0.08. Yeah, that looks good. Ours at 90, and then from top view we can place it there. Maybe rotate it like that, and then rotate it on the X, and then we'll move it down. And then we'll add a few linked duplicates with Alt D. And then we'll just place these to the side. And then add another one. And then one more. A bit down. There we go. Okay, then we'll add a tiny fish cake. So add mesh, add a circle. In your circle settings, change the vertices to 20. Leave edit mode and then move it up. Go into edit mode, activate vert select, then in select choose check or deselect. Go into top view and then scale it down so it makes a nice star. Press A and F to fill, and then E to extrude it up. Leave edit mode and then press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision modifier. Increase it to 3 on render settings as well. Go back into edit mode, select both face select the top and the bottom face, and then press I to inset, and then Ctrl R to add a loop cut there. Right click, shade auto smooth. Now we're going to add a curve, so go into top view, and then in curve we'll add a curve spiral Archimedean, and we can change turns to 2, and then we'll decrease the radius, increase the radius growth. Then we can scale this down just like that, and then place it in the middle. And then we'll have to leave edit mode, move it up, and then from top view we're going to increase the depth just a bit, just like that. And then you can press fill caps, and then we'll add a subdivision by pressing Ctrl 2, and then we'll move it halfway into the fish cake. There it is. Okay, then select both the items, press tab, and without being in edit mode, just in object mode, scale it down. And then we'll place it there, rotate it with X. It's a bit too big at the moment, so we'll scale it down some more. G and Z and move it around, and we'll lean it against the eggs. There. Okay. Then we'll start adding our noodles. So press Shift A, add a curve, knots, and then add the torus knot plus. And then press A to select all. Scale it down, go into top view, scale it down on the Y axis as well. And then leave edit mode, and we'll place it there. Scale it down a tiny bit more. And then we'll move it up. And then I'm gonna increase the depth a tiny bit as well to 0.5. And then we'll move it down. And then you can just move it around so it fits somewhere nice. And even rotate it a bit. There. And then we can make a link to duplicate with Alt-D. And then we'll place that there. And then you can rotate that as well. And just there. And then maybe make it a bit down. And then there. That looks pretty nice. Maybe rotate this a tiny bit more. Okay, then we'll add some small onion pieces. I think I want to move these up a tiny bit. And we'll add some round onion pieces. So add mesh and add a circle. Press D and Z, move it up. Go into edit mode with vert select, press F. And then I to inset. And then X and F to delete the face. Press A to select all. E and extrude up. Leave edit mode. Press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision modifier. Go into edit mode. Add a loop cut on the sides. And then auto smooth. And then I'm going to increase the render view subdivision also to 3. And then scale it down. And then the scale is really nice to see from the top. Yeah, that looks like a nice size, and we'll just move it into our first right click, set origin to geometry so the rotating becomes easier. And then we'll just place it somewhere there. And we can fix this composition later once we have a camera and all the objects are into place. Maybe add another one with the link duplicate with Alt-D on this side. There. Okay. We'll go into front view, select everything, and then move it down. Okay. And then we'll start adding our chopsticks. So press Shift A, mesh cube, and then go into edit mode, scale it down, and then press S and X and scale it up. The X-axis. And then maybe we want to scale down one of the ends. So in face select and then scale it down. Add a loop cut and then press Ctrl B to bevel it. And then we'll add some bevels right there. Leave edit mode, press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision modifier. Increase the render subdivisions also to 3. It's a bit too big, so press A and then scale it down on the X-axis. And then we'll go into front view and we'll place it somewhere around there. Select it, right click, shade auto smooth. Now we'll go from left view and then we'll start adding some ramen on the stick as well. So press Shift A, add curve, add a path. Press G, move it up. R, Z, and 90 to rotate it. Go into edit mode and scale it down. And then place the middle vert on top of the stick. A bit above it. And then we'll start moving around to create the noodles. There, one end there. And then this one goes downwards into the soup. So with the side vert selected, press E to extrude and make the noodle longer. And then we want to end it into our soup like that. Okay, with left view, we'll clean it up a tiny bit. And then we'll start adding some depth. So go into your curve settings and then increase the depth. And I think we used something like 0.04, looks pretty nice. The other noodles seem a tiny bit thicker, so we'll make it 0.5. Yeah, that looks good. Go back into side view and then we can clean up the shape a tiny bit. Just like that. Okay, looks good. And then we'll add a subdivision modifier with Ctrl 2 and we'll also do that on the other ones. I forgot to do it there. And then in front view, select one of the noodles. Alt D to create a link duplicate, and then with X move it to the side and place it beside the other one. and then press Shift R twice to redo your last action. And then now we can still decrease the size of this a bit on the x-axis, and then we'll move it to the left. And then we'll also make a link duplicate of this one, move it up, and then we'll place it there. And then we'll rotate this one as well, just a tiny bit like that. And then we'll place the noodles on it, so just G and Z, and then place them on the chopstick. And then we'll select this chopstick, have it a bit more on an angle. Maybe try and squeeze all the noodles just like that. Okay. And then we'll start adding our camera. So go into front view, Shift A, and add a camera. Press G and Y to move it back. And go into camera view. And then we'll change our output settings to 1920 by 1920. And then G and Z, and then move it up. And then R and X, and then aim it at the ball. And then I think there looks pretty good. Maybe down a bit. Yeah, like that. And then we'll select our noodles and the chopsticks, and now we can rotate those a bit on the Z-axis, make it look a tiny bit more interesting. There, and then move it down. And now we can just basically fix our composition a tiny bit so it looks a bit better. So just select the items, and then we'll move them around and make sure that it looks nice. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Okay, so then we'll go and add a background. Press Shift A, add a plane, go into edit mode, S to scale, and then G and Y and move it back a bit. And then go into edit mode, and with edge select, extrude the back edge up. Make sure it covers the whole view, and then select this edge and then bevel it. Add some cuts, and then right click, shade smooth. Okay, then we'll go into our render settings. We'll change the engine to cycles, device to GPU compute, viewport samples to 128, render samples to 512. Color management, we'll change the look to medium high contrast. And then press Z to open your shading menu and click rendered. And then we'll start adding some light. Press Shift A and then add an area light. Press G and Z, move it up. And then go into your light settings, and then we'll add a slide color, which is FFD 8C0, and then we'll increase the power to maybe something like 80. Yeah, that looks good. Press period and change your pivot point to 3D cursor, then RX and 30 minus to aim it from the back. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Then we'll duplicate this light with Shift D, press RX 30 and then RX 45 and then RZ 45. And then we'll change this one to disk and then size to 2. And then G and Z twice, move it back a tiny bit. And then we'll press Shift D, RZ 90 minus. And then G and Z twice, and then we'll move that back a lot more. And then I also think I want to change the backlight to disk and increase the size to 2 as well. Yeah, that looks good. Press period again, change your pivot point to median point. Shift D to duplicate the backlight, move it backwards with Y, and then rotate it towards the background with R and X. And then go into your camera view so you can see what you're doing. Press G and Z, move it down, and then G and Z twice. You can move it backwards, and then we can shine a nice light on the background. There. Yeah, that looks good. We'll start adding some materials. So we'll start with our background. Select the background, go to your material tab, add, call it background, and then we'll change the base color to E7D0B4. Then we'll do the bowl. The bowl will have 2 colors. So select the bowl. We'll start with the bowl dark. Add a base color of D82 E15. And then we'll change the roughness to 0.3. And then go into edit mode, go into face select, and select the second loop. And then click on the small plus here to add a material slot, add a new one, and then click on sign. And then we'll call it Bowl Light. And then we'll add a base color of FFC 5CB. And then we'll change the roughness to 0.3 as well. And then we can leave edit mode and we'll add the liquid material. So select the object, click new, we'll call it just liquid. And then we'll change the base color to FFB 94E. And then we'll change our roughness to 0.3. And then scroll down a bit, and then we have alpha here that we want to change to 0.5. Then we'll do our eggs. So select the egg white, we'll call it egg white. Change the color to E7, 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 and our roughness to 0.3. And then for the egg yolk, we'll select the egg yolk, create one, call it egg yolk. For the base color, we'll be using E7A840. And then we'll change the roughness to 0.2. Okay, then we'll have our dark onions, which will be these. So we'll call it onion dark. We'll use a base color of 3AC26A. And then a roughness of 0.3. And then we have our light onions. So we'll select the light onion, call it onion light. We'll have a base color of 96E75C. And once again, a roughness of 0.3. Then we'll have our fish cake. So select the base and we'll call it fish cake light. And we'll have a base color of E2ADE7. And of course, a roughness of 0.3. And then we'll have our dark part. So we'll call it fish cake dark. We'll have a base color of E76596. And yes, a roughness of 0.3. And then we'll pick our ramen. And then we'll name it ramen. We'll have a base color of E7CA9E. With a roughness of 0.2. And then we'll select our other ramen on the sticks and then shift click the one you just gave a material, press Ctrl L and link the material. Then our chopsticks, select one of the chopsticks, call it chopstick. And then we'll have a base color of 585858 and a roughness of 0.35. And then all we have to do is go to our world settings and then we'll change our world color to D8D2AF. And then we're all done. Now we can just change our lights a tiny bit. I feel like the background is taking up a tiny bit too much light. So we'll just go into our light settings and maybe change that to 50. There, that looks nice. And maybe this to 65. There we go. Then all we have to do is go and render. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial. If you found any part of it unclear or you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. If you decide to share your amazing artwork on Instagram, don't forget to tag me. I'd love to see your creations. If you found this tutorial helpful, consider supporting the channel by subscribing and liking the video. And remember, practice makes perfect, so go ahead and experiment with the skills you've gained. Thank you for watching and good luck.